Thanks, Monica.
No.
Okay. December 19th, 2023.
May I
Welcome.
may I make a comment about the solstice?
Sure, Gail.
I'm just going to read you something that I wrote out years ago.
Okay.
Going back to the Neolithic times, winter solstice has been celebrated in various forms as the rebirth of the sun or God, of the sunlight of renewal and enlightenment. Its significance on display in Stonehenge and Newgrange, celebrated as Yule by Germanic people of the Iron Age. They were the pagans, the Makal of Vannic mythology, Yalda as ancient Persians, Saturnalia by ancient Romans, Soal by Native Americans, Hanukkah by Jews, Panchaganapi by Hindus, Bodhi by Buddhists, Donzi by Chinese and Eastern Asians, Kamas by the Kalish of Pakistan, Kwanzaa by African Americans, and Intarami by the Incas, which falls in June because they're on the southern hemisphere. It's been around for a long time, let's put it that way, that we've been celebrating the solstice.
Great. Thank you, Gail. Good recollection. And alcoholics celebrate it by getting drunk. So this is an important time for us to not drink or use no matter what. So let's sit. So settling into comfortable sitting posture, coming into the body, the attention turned toward the weight of the body, the stillness of the body. Feeling even in that stillness the movement of life, of breath, of the heart, the energy of the nervous system that lets you feel touch. And letting the attention then just rest with the movement and sensations of breath. Breathing in, breathing out. To strengthen concentration, you can keep the attention with the whole breath, entire cycle, feeling the entire inhalation, the entire exhalation. and letting the awareness open to feeling the body, the whole body with the breath. You might simply feel the body as a single object, or you can also do a brief body scan, just moving the attention from head to foot, just touching on each area of the body with your awareness, and continuing with the knowing of the breath as you do that. Being aware of the breath and the whole body requires a certain balancing, an opening of awareness, not a tightly focused concentration, but something more spacious, thoughts may drift through or even capture the attention. If we get carried away, lost in thoughts, then we gently come back. Otherwise, we can just allow thoughts just to pass through, like some sound passing through awareness. We can let in feeling or mood as an element of our mindfulness into this spacious awareness. Start to see how underlying feelings are often the triggers of thoughts. Of going to those foundational experiences tends to interrupt the creation of thought, seeing the raw material, feelings, perceptions, just breathing with those feelings that are held in the body. And so we're not moving into some other realm, but rather moving more deeply into our, our experience, breath, body, feeling, all part of the same system. This practice encourages us to see our experience as something not personal, just see the experience of being a living being, a field of energy, sensations, feelings, thoughts, all just flowing out of this field. And we observe this with awareness, not applying any interpretation, judgment, just watching.
You're muted.
Did not turn. I turned. How did I mute myself? That's weird. Did you hear my bell? I unmuted for the bell. What did I? All right. Well,
Yeah,
see,
you can hear the bell.
aging is, might be. We'll blame it on being old. Um, you know, I I'm not haven't been doing a lot of teaching the past couple of weeks, and I am working very hard on this book on the Anapanasati Sutta. So this morning I was like, well, what the hell am I going to talk about? Because for those who are hanging out for these sessions for the last few years, you know that I don't I don't always have a plan. Um, but what really came up was to talk a little bit about the challenges of this time of year. Uh, and certainly, I think for addicts, and that was, my joke that that's how alcoholics celebrate solstices by getting drunk. But it's more for me. It's more than that. When my life first started to fall apart in my teenage years, I don't think this is unusual for this group. It was this time of year when it would get bad. And I was just back on the East Coast for a retreat, and November in the Northeast is just, there's something about it that just, the gloom and the impending winter that I remember, like being 13, 14, 15, like walking home from school and the clouds and just feeling like, oh, and that's, at 16 I started to drink. At 17 I started to take drugs and dropped out, and and started to really suffer from depression and had no emotional intelligence, for how to deal with that. And that became a pattern. And it's interesting because it's like these patterns that happen in our lives that get established, at a certain point. The question is, how much of it is just a habit? Like, okay, it's winter, I'm going to get depressed, and in any case, it also became really, as I suggested, a time of year to indulge further, and I think about, I mean, for those of us raised with like Christmas being a big deal, when you're a kid, there's all this magic about it, and you know, it having become a parent in sobriety, it was sweet when my daughter was young to be able to have that kind of joyful, playful holiday, and not, it's, there's that sort of in my mind, is to balance those things. I mean, these days I really enjoy this time of year. I don't tend to get depressed, and but I have a lot of sympathy for those who struggle, and I know that a lot of people who are newly sober or trying to get sober or not haven't figured it out yet, this just does become this kind of pinnacle moment of the year. And I do think that the conditioning from childhood of like, it's magical, it's special, it's going to fix you, I mean, it's maybe it's silly, but there was always this disappointment, right? And it's classic. It's like very Buddhist. Like there's this expectation of something happening that's going to make, you're going to wake up and like you're going to have this present, the pony, or for me it was a drum set, really, but that's going to somehow like make your life all better, and that doesn't happen. And so even as a kid, I think that, again, maybe I'm just being, cheesy pop psychology, but that there's sort of like a letdown, and as you get older, it's like, oh well, I'm going to have that magic by getting loaded, and we know the letdown from that. Um, so yeah, I just see that there's this real risk in this time, and of course the actual, you know, science of it, the sun going away, doesn't help, right? Because we know, like, there is really like a psychological effect from the less light, and the seasonal affective disorder. So who knows? What trying to figure out causes is pretty much a fool's game. But to recognize that this is a time when I have to take care of myself, and for me, I need to incline towards the positive, to the joy, and there's a lot of that. I love, buying my wife a present. It's like, oh, that was fun. I went out yesterday to do that, and it was raining in Berkeley. It started raining, it's a little rain. I had my raincoat on. It's fine. By the time I made it the 4 blocks to Solano Avenue, my pants were soaked through. I was drenched. But it's just water. So anyway, those are the joyful thoughts of the holiday. What other dharma do I have here? I will go back to the Anapanasati, and what I'm doing a little bit in my guided meditation is sort of taking you through that. But I want to. This is going to be, a major theme of my teaching for the next couple of years, probably, and it's been a theme for a while. But it's really interesting. So Anapanasati means mindfulness of breathing in and breathing out, and it's the name of the sutta on that topic, which is one of the most important meditation teachings in the early Buddhist scriptures. And it's very simple in a way, It's just to be aware of your body and your breath, to be aware of your feelings and your breath, to be aware of your mind and your breath, and then to be aware of reality and your breath. And the way it's structured, it allows you to go into those four things in a very deep way and cultivate a real, a profound experience. And it's interesting to work with, because there are these dimensions. One of the things that I'm really interested in is how can I use this when I'm not really concentrated, or I'm not in a great mind state? Because some of the instructions are like breathing in, experiencing joy, breathing out, experiencing joy. And I'm like, well, what if I'm not experiencing joy? Can I not do this practice? And so, I'm really interested in investigating how to navigate these elements of this teaching. And so for that section, I just say, breathing in, experiencing what I'm feeling, just being with it, not fighting it, not trying to change it, just feeling it. Being aware of mind, breathing in, experiencing the mind. That's a really sort of abstract idea, or maybe a vague idea. What does that mean, right? It's in Pali or in Sanskrit, the word is citta, Citta, which is sort of doesn't really mean your head. It doesn't mean your thoughts. A lot of people like to translate it as heart mind. That seems just as vague to me as anything else. But it's very interesting that when we're meditating, particularly if we can get a little quiet, to sort of just drop in the idea, oh, let me be aware of mind. And in the Thai forest tradition, they talk about it more as being aware of awareness itself, or the side of the container. And I think that's more helpful and more specific in a way. Oh, so as you go through the Anapanasati, you start with your breath, and then you add in the rest of the body, and then you go to feeling, and as I said, joy and happiness, but just whatever you're feeling, and at that point, what I think you're doing is not putting body aside, but rather adding in now feeling. So you're including, you have breath and body and feeling. And then when you get to mind, you realize like mind contains breath, body, and feeling. All that stuff is happening in mind. So you can initially just feel the wholeness of those things. And then, the wholeness of breath, body, feelings, and that they're all in some space, in some context. And then you see that, oh, I can also be aware of just that space. And I'm not pushing aside body and feelings and breath, but they're kind of moving more into the background, and I'm seeing, oh, that this awareness of mind is just awareness of this container, this space, which is, of course, quiet. It's empty. So it's a great place to get concentrated, which is what that part of the sutta suggests to do, to concentrate the mind. And these are the first three, what are called tetrads, 4 tetrads. It's all really just laying the foundation for the 4th tetrad, which, as I said, I call it being aware of reality. I've never heard anybody call it that, but something I just came up with. But it's sort of what it is, because you're being aware of impermanence, and when we can say, and anicca, dukkha, anatta, being aware of impermanence, of unsatisfactoriness, and of not self, or corelessness, or the unstable quality. So with that spacious, settled mind and body, when you turn toward these other aspects of our experience, you're able to see them more clearly than you ordinarily can. And that then has a deeper impact, to see, oh yeah, everything's impermanent, sure, but to really feel that, and to sense that, and to know that. It's actually quite disturbing. Because this idea that there's nothing to hold on to. I mean, we're lucky in a way that we have that we live in this delusion of permanence, because to live in the truth, the absolute truth of impermanence, to wholly live in that would probably be maddening. But really, what we're meant to do is hold these in balance. This absolute truth and this of that everything is completely unstable, and held with the relative truth, the practical way we live of, oh, things are solid enough that I can operate in, I can function. So that's the other end of the spectrum. I've gave you the alcoholic, depressed, don't drink or use no matter what end of the Dharma. I'll actually go to something a little bit in between, since I do have a few more minutes, and this is the other thing that sort of came up when I was thinking about today. There was at the Insight Meditation Society, where I was on retreat. They they make a point of following the precepts, right? And there's not many ways you can break the precepts on retreat unless you're really determined. To not kill, to not steal, to not harm sexually, to not lie, to not use intoxicants. And so part of the non-killing is that they ask you not to kill bugs, and they have a little thing they call the insect removal system, where they have like various spots around the buildings. They have these clear plastic cups turned upside down on top of flat little pieces of plastic, so that you can put the cup over a insect and then slide this little flat piece of plastic underneath the cup to capture the bug, and then you go to the nearest exit and you open the door somehow, and then you release the bug. It's very sweet, and you see people doing it, and I got to do it once or twice. But as an alcoholic addict, even though I'm 38 years sober, thank you, I'm just, and I mean, I guess because I live in this world of recovery, I'm just so aware of addiction that, saving bugs is like a really trivial way of manifesting the precepts, and to think that, and literally, I remember when I first started to practice, which was before I got sober, thinking that, oh yeah, I'm really like spiritual now because I don't kill bugs, and it's like, no, there's a lot more. That's not sila. That's just performative sila, because people on that retreat are addicted to their mind states, and it's one of the reasons people go on retreats like that. They're very alluring, those mind states. And you kind of hear the teachers referring to that, although I think sometimes the teachers are encouraging that. God bless them in their lack of understanding about addiction. But the subtle ways that you see addiction manifesting, certainly in the dining hall, and for me, sila, really takes a commitment. It's not about saving bugs. And yeah, it's easy to be celibate on retreat. It's easy to not get drunk on retreat. Again, before I got sober, I would go on retreat. I wouldn't drink or use. I'd be like, I don't have a problem. Look, I went for a retreat and I didn't drink. Interestingly, Ajahn Pasano, in the book that he co-wrote with Ajahn Amaro called The Island, this is a book that's about stream entry, the first stage of enlightenment. And they wrote it because, as they say, that they feel that people don't have enough emphasis on stream entry nowadays. It's kind of like people meditate for other reasons other than becoming enlightened, which is fine. But certainly the monastics who are committed to the, highest possible realization, they want to see people striving in skillful ways. But Ajahn Pasno makes clear from many of the texts he draws from in the book that the qualities of someone who has stream entry, there are 4 qualities: that they have taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and that they have sila, that they practice sila, morality. And that sounds really simple, and it's what, at the beginning of every retreat, we take refuge, and then we take the precepts. So reading that, I thought, I'm thinking that it's more than just chanting, I take refuge in the Buddha. And it's more than just, not drinking, or any of the formal precepts. And I'll just say, and I think, I'm not going to go too far into this, but taking refuge in the Buddha, just that, really taking refuge in the Buddha, what that means to me is an absolute determination to be present for every moment, every waking moment. And I think that that's how that would manifest if you're going to say that that's stream entry, taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. I think it's that type of level of refuge. It's not just like, oh yeah, this is how I'm kind of guy. This is a principle I'm living by or something. It's like, no, I need to be so committed that it doesn't fall away at any point. And, so I've been reflecting on that. And of course, also acknowledging okay, I'm not there. But I like that because it also, I think that we get, going back to being addicted to states, we get the idea that if I can just get concentrated enough in my meditation, I'm going to get enlightened. And I don't know if maybe that's true. It sort of seems like some of the descriptions of enlightenment sound like that. But there's something about this idea of really being committed to refuge that it suggests something beyond meditation. And of course, why would enlightenment just be about meditating? Shouldn't it have a broader meaning than that? So I'll leave you hanging with that, the idea that enlightenment is about 3 refuges and sila, and because there's a lot you can reflect on about what sila is as well. But I don't want to run too late. I actually have a meeting at 11:30, so I would like to hear anybody's comments or reflections. Oh, I do see that. Thank you, Monica, for putting in all the, I don't know if while I'm talking, if you're all reading the chat, but just, yes, I'm teaching a day-long for Spirit Rock. I don't know if that's on here. Oh yeah, there it is, December 30th. It's going to be online, so that's what you get. Oh yeah, I'm also teaching Living Kindness. Thank you. For 6 weeks, 6 Tuesday afternoons. And then we have a in-person retreat coming up February 27th, 5 days in Northern California. So please attend what you can and take care of yourself.
Hi,
So,
Kevin.
oh, Steve has his hand up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kevin. I heard Ann start to say something. I was pausing there for a second. Um, you know, when you started talking about the addicted to mind thoughts and everything, and I did send away, and I got that book, The Island, and for whatever reason, for me, I all my life, I've whether it's ADD or whatever, but I just can't retain very much of what I read. And I'm an avid reader, as you know, so I'm frustrated because so much of what you're talking about too. And I just completed Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of his work talks about, how we're addicted to the mind and how the mind and the ego and everything controls us. And so there's all this information, but what I'm really trying to do, and I'm having quite a bit of success at it, is when I'm in my meditations, I'm just keep going back to the breath, and it's like training my mind. I'm training my mind to be more concentrated on the stuff that I'm reading, and I'm having quite a bit of success with that. But thank you for that talk, and I can't wait to hear more about this whole concept of the sila. I struggle with some of that, the understanding of it and how to work it into my yeah, I would love to be enlightened and just keep doing what I'm doing. So I think that's kind of one foot in front of the other, but that whole thing about the addicted mind stuck in my brain for a second. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. And that when you were gone, reading the book The Island was, I can only take so much of that in, then I have
Oh
to
yeah.
stop.
No, no, you have to read that book very, very slowly in small
Yeah,
bits. Particularly Ajahn Amro's half of the book, is
way up
definitely,
there.
yes. Thank you. Joe, hi.
Hey, having been on that retreat with you, I was just curious, and being a fellow addict, how do you balance, like, because I got fair amount of blissful states. How do you balance like enjoying that and the wholesome aspect of it without craving it? I mean, I think I was doing a decent job, but I'm not sure, And like I said, I want to go. I'm really drawn to longer retreat, and I hope it's for the right reasons. I think it is, but how does one with a addictive mind balance that?
I, I guess the first thing for me is to, when those states are not there, which, typically for me, on a retreat like that, I'll typically have 1 to 2 sittings a day that really go deep. And then the rest of them are like, not quite, almost, or not even close, you know. And so for me, it starts with being totally okay with the times when nothing's happening. And so, like, the beginning of the retreat's a really good time for practicing letting go. Like, oh, I'm just falling asleep every sit. Okay, let me just sit and keep my eyes open and watch and see if I can just not strive, right? So that's key. You know, Lee Brasington, who teaches, really concentration retreats, his teacher Ayakema would say, at the end of every sitting, review. She would suggest reviewing several things, but one of them was say to yourself, this is an impermanent experience, and to notice. I mean, it's really interesting. Like at the end of a sit, especially when it's really deep, and then just notice, like, okay, the bell rang. Okay, now I'm gonna open my eyes, and it's like it's gone. I mean, it goes fast, right? Like it's remarkable. Like you can feel really deep, and it's like as soon as I open my eyes, stand up. I mean, I'm in a different state. I'm not in like a normal, like just hanging out state, but I'm not there. So just like, oh, that's totally okay because it it's really important to see that the states
are not the end game. The thing is, being present is the end game, if you will. Okay, now it's like this. Now it's like this. Now I'm walking out of the hall. I'm not walking out of the hall like, if I walk slowly enough, I can hold on to that concentration and it won't go away. I can really. And that's where my, questioning, I could say judging mind kicks in sometimes when I see the way some people practice. It looks like they are trying to hold on to mind states. If I'm slow enough, and then maybe, then when I get back to my next sitting, I won't have to go through settling in. I'll be already concentrated. And, it's like, what am I trying to do here? So, but, this comes back for me to my larger agenda, which is that I want the Dharma to be just integrated into my life. I don't want it to be like this special thing that I go and I do that, and then the rest of my life is just, fucking around,
But well, it's interesting because the teachers encourage that more maybe in the first half. They encourage like continuity of mindfulness. So
Yeah.
like get up and do walking, go straight into walking meditation if that suits you. So it's an interesting balance because like you said, a lot of teachers do encourage that. So it seems like there's varying viewpoints.
Right. Well, but there's a difference between continuity of mindfulness and continuity of concentration.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and I know, yes, and a lot of teachers do encourage that, and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, to maintain concentration or even to stay slow. It's just, again, it's like, I have doubts based on my own experience about what's the intention behind it.
Yeah.
If you're really practicing with right intention, what's the first element of right intention? Relinquishment, right? It's letting go. There's only three elements to right intention: letting go, loving kindness, compassion. So, if your practice is being led by, I want to stay really concentrated, that's not letting go. So, yeah, how do you stay mindful and be, working at your practice, really, because it's you have to be engaged. There's serious effort involved. How do you do that without grasping? And that's, I mean, to me, that's like just key. I don't know if there's anything more important. Right effort is so tricky.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, concentration is one of the, I don't know if you heard me say this, but it's occurred to me on the retreat. Concentration, when not guided by right intention, leads towards clinging. That's why we go into yogi mind, right? Like where I'm like focused on something really not helpful that I'm like spinning out on, because there's concentration without right intention. Effort without right intention tends towards grasping. I'm trying to get this to happen, okay? And so right intention needs to be there, or all of this stuff gets sidetracked. And the retreats are a very risky place for that because it's silent. There's no interruption, so you get caught. You get into your own space, and there's no, every 3 days you talk to somebody for 15 minutes, but the only person there to interrupt your, wandering is you. This is why I think it's so important for people to understand the Eightfold Path, and I don't think that there is enough emphasis put on really implanting in people the Eightfold Path: right view, right intention, right action, right effort. if those aren't clear, if you're not clear about those, and again, I'm speaking very much from my own experience from, being on that retreat 40 years ago, and just like I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I got into lots of great states, but it wasn't leading anywhere, and I got into a lot of unwholesome states as well.
That's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks.
And hi, ta ta ta.
Hi. Yeah, it's one of those mornings. Not sleeping well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. It's there was so much you said beautiful. I know you have to go. But I think what keep coming back to is what Wes said about gravity.
Yeah.
And that we don't even have to hold on.
Mm.
And for some reason that just really implanted in my body this morning and my heart mind that we don't have to hold on because it's there. We take it for granted,
Mm.
but it's there and it's a force beyond measure. And then I start thinking about, well, what are the other forces beyond measure? Of course, love, of course, without even, but then, and then the light, the whole solstice, the whole, anyway, and the tides and the moon. I just, it's like, it's what I needed to hear this morning. It's the bigger picture. It's resting in the Dharma. It's resting in the right intention. It's all of that and more. And then I, thinking of the tetrads, and once I'm aware of and accepting, or at least allowing the aliveness of the body to be here,
Mm.
right, just as it is, that allows that space, that gravity, that thing, whatever energy that's there to come to the foreground a little bit more. Anyway, I'm just sort of feeling philosophical this
No, I'm
morning.
really hearing you, Anne, and I really think that what I'm hearing and relating to is the idea that the kind of question, well, what are we responsible for? You know,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you're saying, like I'm not responsible for holding on to the earth.
Right. Oh my God.
You
That
know,
feels
but I'm responsible for some things, you know. So
right.
what are they? And so the daily contemplation. I am born of my karma.
Yeah.
Heir to my karma. Well, what's my karma? Well, my karma is my thoughts, words, and actions. So and so that's
Yeah.
why Sila is so important. It's like that's why it's the beginning of the path, right? Like, I mean, you hang out with Ajahn Pasno, and like he's just like, just have Sila. Everything else will come from that, which is kind of what I'm hearing from you, right? Like, what's the foundation? Well, the foundation isn't get really concentrated. The
Right.
foundation is get really clean in your life. And
Mm-hmm.
what does Bhikkhu Bodhi call it? Mental purification. He calls Sila mental purification. So it's like lay down that, and just as you're saying about the Anapanasati, just get the breath really established and stay with it. And what naturally unfolds, you don't have to like, okay, next tetrad, next tetrad. It's
Right.
kind of like just like open, oh, what's the next natural thing? Well, if you're with your breath for a while, the next natural thing is to feel yourself sitting, to feel
Right.
your body. And then what's the natural thing from that is to feel what's going on in your body, which is your felt experience, your your emotional world. And what's
Mm-hmm.
the next natural thing out of that? Well, that you realize, oh, there's a mind that's holding all this. And then the next natural thing to that is to see, oh, it's just coming and going and passing.
Mm-hmm.
And the very last step of the Anapanasati is breathing in, breathing in, contemplating, letting go.
Right.
Breathing out, contemplating, letting go.
Mm.
Well, that's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like I it's not at the end. It's not breathing in, grabbing a hold of enlightenment. No, it's just like breathing in, contemplating, letting go. Oh, okay. And so it's like it's just very interesting, and it does, frankly, it comes back to the serenity prayer as well.
Yeah.
Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can. What am I responsible for? What am I not responsible for? And I think we have this tendency to try to be responsible for the things we aren't
We
responsible
are
for,
responsible for.
and to not be responsible for the things we are responsible for.
Right.
That's like the whole
Oh,
flip
that's
that
a
we
lot of
do.
pressure. And it's just the ease of this practice over time is just such nourishment. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Knowing, feeling, sensing into, yeah, I'm not responsible for holding up the earth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, yeah. Okay. Thank you. That was great. Okay.
I feel like the vibe of the room right now is like, oh yeah. It feels very nice. Very
The
sweet.
Dharma in grief.
Well, this is why I don't prepare my Dharma talks, because just like, let's see if we can get the magic to happen. I think we had some magic this morning. I felt it.
I think you did. I feel very different. Yeah, so
So
thank you.
just to tell you what the meeting I have scheduled is with an organization called True Nature that does retreats all over the world. And they're like, do you want to teach a retreat somewhere around the world? And I'm like, yeah, okay. Can we do something in Ireland? So
Oh, there you go.
if you guys want to come to Ireland and on a retreat with me, like, I'll tell them that I just had a class and that, a bunch of people said they wanted to come to Ireland on a retreat. So.
That's where my wife wants to go, so I'll come.
Okay, Steve.
Well, we
yes,
have
yeah.
a potential future trip planned to Ireland, so we could make it that. Yeah.
Okay, Monica, that's two. Okay.
Me too.
Yeah.
I've
Okay.
never been to my
Angela's got her
Uh-huh.
hand up. I saw Deborah raise her hand.
Yeah. It's like,
Thank you. Okay.
yeah.
I think if we can,
craving,
I think
yeah.
if we can get 12 people, we'll be fine. So,
Maybe we could lease our private jet.
yeah, yeah,
You get right on that, Steve.
yeah. That'd be great, Donna, Steve. That'd be a great, really.
I know, Steve. That's awesome. Are you offering? I
Think
love
of the
it.
karma you would attain from that. God,
I've
Probably.
gone too far. I've gone too far.
you'll be reborn in a heaven realm for sure. After the plane crashes. So sorry. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh.
Okay. All right, you guys. Love you. And, really take care of yourselves over these days, whatever your situation is. Watch out for those people that are like not helpful, and then stick to the people that are helpful. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
blessings.
Thank you,
Blessings.
Kevin. As
I'll
I
see-
stumble
Thank you,
bumble
Kevin.
through all this, I'm making progress.
I'll see you on Boxing Day. Okay. Next Tuesday.
Good
Bye-bye.
Love
see
you.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Love you, Kevin.
Thanks, guys.